Welcome back. And we made it to chapter 25. And this is maybe the breaking point of this book, but we shall see. Y'all ready? Chapter 25. Dana, I just got off the phone with Vic's lawyer and he said he could throw some legal transcriptions our way. Norrell said into the phone. Jessica did such a good job with the real estate project, she should be able to handle this as well. I don't know, Norrell. Real estate is one thing. Legal is something else. They have their own vocabulary that's probably nearly as extensive as ours. Jessica might not be able to handle it. A court reporter might be better suited. Oh, there isn't much to legal work. A right there, a codicil there. It's a cinch. Why don't we discuss it at our next partners meeting? All right. You must have eaten your Wheaties this morning, Norrell. You sound so energetic. Norrell gulped down a multivitamin. Well, I got a good night's sleep. I feel great. Oh, how's Vic? He's fine, Norrell replied dreamily. Dana instantly understood. Norrell had had a good night with Vic. No wonder she felt so up this morning. As she hung up the phone, she felt a little envious of Norrell. Here they go. Like, why? She and Gil had been seeing each other regularly the last few weeks, with kisses that grew more and more ardent at the end of each evening. Having Gil in her life had gone a long way towards filling the hole in her life caused by Brittany's absence. But at least Brittany was having a good time. She had had her own set of friends down in Nassau that she'd grown up with, and Kenny's parents were delighted to see her. Thank God for them. If it were left up to her own father, Brittany would never know how it felt to have loving grandparents. Dana remembered the incident that forever altered her relationship with her father like it just happened last week. Even if the incident had never happened, she would never forget the pain of that day when her mother and sister were buried. Hearing her father say that he would rather she had died so her mother and sister could have lived, that he wished it was she who lay cold and dead in a metal casket, came as a shock almost too great to bear. She'd been as devastated as her father at the loss of half of their family, but she would never have been willing to sacrifice her father to keep her mother and Gail. Her eyes became damp. She would never forget how she began each day at her Aunt Joan's with a prayer that today would be the day her father would come for her. Every night brought aching disappointment, and even more unsettling was the haunting certainty that if her mother and sister had survived the crash and she had been the one who died, life would have gone on as usual. No one would have been sent anywhere. It would never stop hurting her heart to know that her father valued her less than he did her mother and Gail. I wonder why. It would be another 3 years, time filled with grief, counseling, high school, and college classes before she would meet Kendrick Covington and embark on the happy home life she always dreamed of, with no way of knowing it would only last 15 short years. But now there was Gil. Dana's life was still far from perfect. She worked many hours and still had to watch each penny she spent. But she was happier now than she'd been in over a year, and she knew Gil was the reason why. Cece fidgeted in discomfort under Norrell's steady stare. Ooh, Norrell, don't do Cece. They were at Dana's for their partners meeting, with Dana speaking about physician complaints, but Cece wished she could cover her stomach, for that was the focus of Norrell's gaze. Ooh. She was well into her 4th month and just beginning the show. She'd been pleased to get a call from Norrell after returning from her aunt's funeral in South Florida to congratulate her on the pregnancy, and even thought that perhaps everything between them would be all right after all. But now she had to cope with having Norrell look at her belly like it had suddenly sprouted flowers for another four and a half months. She didn't think she'd be able to take it. Norrell, girl. Dana, sitting in a chair opposite Cece, cleared her throat. Hey guys, y'all aren't listening. What's more important than CDN? Norrell quickly recovered, finally tearing her stare away from Cece's stomach. Sorry, I was just thinking about something. Cece met Dana's gaze and momentarily raised an eyebrow. Dana raised chin showed she got the message. Did y'all want to reschedule this meeting? Dana asked. We don't have time, Cece said in protest, instantly regretting her silent signal. She merely wanted to let Dana know that Norrell was hung up on this baby thing again, not to prompt Dana to offer to reschedule. I'm sorry, this is all my fault, Norrell said. I'm afraid my mind just isn't on business this morning. Go ahead, Dana. I promise I'll pay attention this time. Dana continued with her presentation. The bottom line was that CDN's clients had a few complaints, and most of them were about getting their completed work back late. Others related to errors made in transcribing records, errors that could have easily been avoided by a careful read-through of the work before sending it to the client. I've determined that Linda Blake isn't proofing any of her reports, Dana continued. I think we should let her go. Can we afford to lose a full-time MT? Cece asked. We can't afford to keep her. I agree with Dana, Norrell said. We can't have contractors who are only interested in producing as many lines as they can so they can collect big paychecks each Friday. If they're putting out garbage, it's going to reflect on us and may cost us clients. Let's get rid of her. But what if she gets mad that we fired her and wants to get back at us? Cece asked. I mean, what's to stop her from getting into the system and doing real damage? Once we turn off her logon, she can't access the system, Dana said. Now, aren't you glad we spent that money on a consultant to personalize our software? I'm just glad we're finished paying him. I wish we were finished paying Pat Fairfield all that money we owe her, Norrell said. Come on, Norrell, Dana said patiently. They had gone over this many times before. We did take over all her clients. It's only fair she be compensated for that. Those clients were what got us started. It can take years to build a base like that. We were lucky Pat agreed to our terms of a large down payment and the balance in monthly installments, Cece added. Dana nodded. Yes, we are. But partners, we're facing a crisis if we can't hire more people. Remember, we're contractual bound to bill at a lower line rate if we can't deliver on time. So every time we fall out of turnaround, it costs us money. And I'm reluctant to take on any new clients if we don't have the staff. Any suggestions? I've already talked to Michael about going part-time for Precise after my maternity leave. That'll give me more time to work on CDN's clients, Cece offered. Won't going part-time make you lose your health insurance? Dana asked. We're all covered through Michael's job. As long as I can collect a weekly paycheck for the lines I produce, just like any other MT on the payroll, it'll work out fine. I know I'm a partner, but my family depends on my income, and we won't be splitting any profits until the end of the year. In other words, I don't want to sound like a cheapskate, Cece said firmly, but I wouldn't want anyone to feel that my pay can be deferred in case of a cash crunch. She telling them. Oh, that won't be a problem. We've never had a cash crunch before, Dana said confidently. We would never take advantage of you that way. That's great, Cece, and we definitely need the extra effort, but it's not an immediate solution, Norrell pointed out. You're not into your fifth month yet, and then after the baby is born, you'll need 6 weeks of recuperation. We're talking something like another 5 or even 6 months. CDN needs help now. Cece frowned. Well, it's not practical for me to leave Precise now. I've already hinted that I might not be coming back full time after the baby. It wouldn't be fair to them for me to leave earlier. Besides, there's a lot going on in my life right now. Miss Puckett had accepted the offer she and Michael made on her house. Ooh. And now they were all working to get their current home ready to show prospective buyers. Even the kids were doing their part, straightening out their closet and moving excess belongings to the garage so the house wouldn't look so crowded. She didn't want to tell Dana or Norrell about their new house because only half the process was complete. They still had to sell the house they lived in now, and she didn't want anything to jinx it. Cece had a superstitious nature, and she felt Norrell's envy would send out some bad vibes. But I'm not about to sit around for 6 weeks after the baby comes. Precise doesn't have any short-term disability benefits other than what paid time off I've accumulated. Once that runs out, I don't work and I don't get a check. You're planning on working as soon as you get out of the hospital? Norrell sounded incredulous. Sitting in a comfortable I know this word, but I don't know how to pronounce it. This ergonomy. Yeah, that word. Sitting in a comfortable design chair and transcribing for a living hardly takes the effort of being a lumberjack chopping down trees in the woods. Norrell, Cece pointed out. After the baby is born, I'll be back at work in 2 weeks max, and all the work I do will be for CDN. Since my status is that of an employee, not independent contractor, Precise wouldn't even let me work until the doctor clears me after 6 weeks. We wouldn't want you to overexert yourself, Cece, Dana said. I appreciate that, but you do what you have to do. Remember how quickly Norrell went back to work after they took out her appendix? What'd you take off, Norrell's? 3 days? Norrell nodded sheepishly. She had known the hospital bill would be huge, so she returned to work after just a few days. Yeah, 3 days, she said, but I wasn't married then, she added. I had no choice but to go back to work. I'm married, Cece said, but I gotta be realistic. I'll have 7 kids and probably a much bigger mortgage. Michael won't be able to do it all by himself. She confidently patted her heavy thighs. I appreciate you guys being concerned about my health, but I'll be fine. There's nothing to having a baby. At Norrell's stricken look, Cece withdrew her breath audibly. I'm sorry. That was a thoughtless thing to say. Dana signed and in a significant gesture quietly closed her notebook and placed it on a coffee table. For about 10 long seconds, Norrell sat still as a statue. Then she hastily leaned forward to collect her purse from the floor beside her chair. I have to go, she said. Her voice sounded strained and unnatural. Norrell, no, wait for me, please. Cece struggled to get to her feet. She grabbed her shoulder bag. I'll see you later, she said to the worried-looking Dana as she rushed to the back door, where Norrell stood outside lighting a cigarette with an unsteady hand. Cece panted as she closed the door behind herself. Thanks for waiting. You obviously wanted to say something, so go ahead. I want to tell you again how sorry I was for being so inconsiderate. Then the words began pouring out straight from her heart. Norrell, I wish you weren't having such a hard time. I'd give anything if you could, if things were different for you. But it's not up to me. I hate what it's done to us, to our friendship. I know I'm not being fair to you, Cece. I'm sorry. I just can't help being a little jealous. You've got everything I wanted. A husband who loves you and children. Cece didn't know what to say. She hadn't expected Norrell to come out and admit her jealousy. although Cece felt it whenever they were in each other's company. Vic loves you, Norrell. You should never underestimate the value of a good husband. Look at what happened to poor Dana, losing Kenny so suddenly. Besides, you're reasonably well off. She thought of Michael's reluctance to trade a small mortgage for a much larger one, and of how difficult it would be to raise 7 children in this day and age. That's something else you don't ever want to take for granted. Money helps, but what they say is true. Money can't wrap its arm around you at night or give you a hug. I know things aren't easy for Dana, but I'm sure if you asked her if she'd rather have Brittany or plenty of money, she'd choose her daughter. Norrell stubbed out her cigarette with her shoe. Inside, Dana wished she had a way to hear what Norrell and Cece were saying. She went up to her bedroom, which overlooked the patio. The only thing that stopped her from opening the window was the fear that her friend would recognize the sound. She'd be so embarrassed if that happened, but she couldn't hear a thing with the windows closed. Damn it. She stood in the shadows of the sheer curtain and peeked out through a slit in the built-in white wooden shutters. Norrell stubbed out a cigarette and said something to Cece. They both looked pretty calm, no twisted faces of anger, thank God. Dana watched as they stepped off the patio and around to the front of the house. She guessed they were done. Surely both her friends would call later and fill her in. She hoped they had come to a real understanding and not just a temporary fix. The ringing phone made her jump. Then, realizing how foolish she had been to allow herself to be startled in her own bedroom, she chuckled. She still wore a smile as she picked up the receiver and said hello. Hi, it's Gil. Dana immediately forgot all about Norrell and Cece. Hi. I didn't interrupt your meeting, did I? No, it's all over. The girls just left. We're all busy little bees making money day and night. What's on your mind? Do you think you might be able to take a few days off? I thought it might be nice to get out of Jacksonville for a few days. Oh, what you have in mind? She reclined against the pillow, stretching her upper body and feeling quite sexy. Savannah. It's a pretty city, conveniently located, historic, and romantic. Dana could care less about the history, but a romantic setting definitely appealed to her. What do you say? I know it's short notice, but there's not much time until Brittany returns. If we're going to get away, we probably need to do it this weekend. Yes, Brittany comes back a week from Thursday. What about Irene? There's no need for her to know my whereabouts. Vanessa is still down at my parents'. I'm in touch with her directly. Do you plan to tell her about us? Yes, eventually. I'm still trying to work it out in my head. Don't worry about her, Dana. He paused. So should I make a reservation for this weekend? Ooh, he is too smooth. Sure, she saw no reason to be coy about it. When a man asked a woman to go away with him for a weekend, that meant sex. She couldn't wait. That's the end of chapter 25. Whew. I don't know, y'all. I don't know if I should keep going or not. Y'all let me know if I should keep going, because Dana's getting on my nerves. I understand why she jumping the gun and stuff like that, because she's lonely and she needs the companionship, and it is what it is. I don't know if CDN is going to survive, because if they are struggling so soon, and Norrell is envious of Cece, and then did they say Dana was envious of Cece too? Like, woo, I just foresee that CDN is not going to survive because they got issues. And why are they taking on so much workload if they are understaffed? Are they just thinking of the money? Yeah, they touched on it briefly that money is not everything, but I guess they need it. Okay, so that's all I got for chapter 25. I said I was going to read up to chapter 25 and make a decision, but I'm going to leave it up to you all that are listening to let me know if you want me to continue, just to find out what's going to happen. So in the comment sections below, let me know if I should continue reading. And I shall see you possibly in chapter 26. I don't know yet. But yeah, let me know. Bye.